Hello, good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new broadcast series for the one and only iRacing official CONSPIT GTE Sprint Series, brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing. It is the year of 2025, it is Season 1, and we are here for week number 5. Now, with many weeks already passed, well, there's no broadcast for those weeks, but we're here today to bring you all the racing action live from circuit side in what is the 7 o'clock in the evening official top split. And well, of course, we only have one event on our schedule for today, timed in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC. And as we can see, it will be our 45-minute race due to get underway in approximately 5 minutes from now. In the quarantine booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as CONSPIT, depending on what media you follow me on, and you're watching this broadcast live on YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX141TX or Paul Walsh. But without further ado, less about me, more about the racing, and what have we got on our calendar for this season? Well, let's give you a quick reminder, and as we can see there, well, unfortunately, it does seem as though we've got a little bit of a technical area there, but give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. It just goes to show you that we can't always get things right straight away on the course of the broadcast day, but there we go, as that is our official series appearing there. And with that erroneous glitch out the way, we've already completed 4 weeks, but now we've made our way into week number 5 at Road America. And well, we are continuing a run of American circuits as the season does go on. And what a brilliant set of circuits we've had so far, having started all the way back at what was the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans in France, albeit it looks like there our flags might be also designed to glitch up there. And then we made our way to Sebring in what was week number 2. Then week 3 we made our way to Japan for the Suzuka International Racing Course, and last time out we were at the Daytona International Speedway. But talking about Road America more specifically, as we can see here, the full course will be playing host to our drive state, and they're currently in the midst of qualifying, and we will be having the extensive course, the 14 corner circuit located near the village of Elkhart Lake in Sheboygan County of the US state of Wisconsin. system, where it's a circuit like no other when it comes to flat out, no holds barred racing action, with its extensive straights being connected together by what is a rather close-knit, tight sequences of corners. And put it all together, it means there is ultimate sprint racing around here, in the fact that you need to get the best possible exit out of the final corner in the sequence in order to tear your way all the way out towards the next heavy braking zone. Now, just to give you a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing, of course we can't go without them, and as we can see, setup wise, it's open setups with fuel loads restricted to 50%, and in the race, the grid shall be set by the closed qualifying session that's currently ongoing, commencing via a rolling start with a full formation lap, after which we go racing. And should our drivers pick up any instant points, well, they will be receiving a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and they'll be disqualified from the race if they pick up 25 or more instant points. And that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing, so are we. And let's head back to circuit side, and we'll qualifying is just coming to a close currently, I do believe, as some drivers making the way on around. And well, do we have any qualifying laps to account for so far? Not quite, but as our drivers do tear the way around, we do have the best part of 21 drivers here today, all absolutely itching to give it their best. And whilst we have typically seen over the last couple of seasons the Corvette C8R be quite the dominant GTE car compared to some of its rivals, it's not so here in qualifying today, as we are seeing there's a whole mixture of cars on display. A lot of Porsches, a lot of Corvettes, and we also do have a couple of Fords out there, including the one being piloted by none other than Cedric Boissier, as the man makes his way through turn number 1 and down towards turn number 2 to get his next qualifying lap on the board. Remember, they only have 2 laps in this closed qualifying session, and well, if they don't complete those laps by the time the timer hits 8 minutes, that's qualifying said and done, and they will have to go into what is the race, gridding as best they can based on lap they've been able to set. So all the drivers absolutely right now itching to go, no doubt about it. And well, we do look from a Ford, one of our American manufacturers on this grid, to the Corvette C8R being piloted by our fastest driver so far, and that is Dominique Sissou. And well, we can see here right now Dominique absolutely attacking with door number 1 on the car as well. And well, for the uninitiated, when you do race in an official iRacing split, you are given a door number based on your relative driver rating, I do believe, compared to your rivals. So right now Sisu is considered to be the number 1 driver in this top split for this evening. And could we see the Corvette driver come out on top, or will we see some of the fast flying Porsches such as that from Sylvain Delpech make their way on past? Because this Porsche, one thing that it has over the Corvette, if it's not the straight line speed, and if it's not the corner performance, although many would argue the Porsche is the ultimate in the corners, given the fact that's what Porsche is known for best, well, it would be the fact that the Porsche has that absolutely screaming engine, and well, it's something that stands out tall amongst everything else. And well, of course, the Porsche 911 GTE, slightly different as we hear it roar its way past our cameraman there, slightly different compared to the typical Porsche 911 racing cars, in the fact that the engine's actually mounted in a mid-engine rear-wheel drive layout, whereas typically Porsche are known for mounting the engine over the rear axle to create a rear engine rear-wheel drive layout. The only Porsche 911 in modern motorsporting where you will see that engine brought forward, and will that all be in part of meeting the rules, regulations, and getting the very best out the car. Now, we also do have a few BMW M8 GTEs, or what is known as the Giga BMW. It's nicknamed given its relative size compared to its rolls and that massive front grille. And while BMW drivers not quite having the qualifying session they've necessarily wanted, but with qualifying coming to a close now, I do believe we've only got a couple of drivers yet to get their laps on the board, where it does look as though Dominique Sissou has taken that pole position by the best part of 7 over Juan Carlos Martin, and well, it's 2 Corvettes that look to be going on to that front row. And well, we have seen a good number of races where it's been the Corvettes that have dictated the pace, and it seems to be that way here in qualifying at least. But could we see a very different story when we do go into the race itself? We are now just waiting for that transition, but there you can see on the left-hand side, that will be your starting orders. All the laps have been tallied, and well, the only driver not to get a lap on the board, our number 18 driver, will be starting P21 out of 21 drivers. It'll be Christopher Wayne. But qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen, and we are now itching to go racing. And well, it's not too far away, as I do believe we just have 30 seconds left over here. But look, oh, that absolutely picturesque circuit. And well, the Wisconsin State Circuit of Road America, definitely known for the scenic views around it. It really is a roar through the local countryside. And well, I can tell you one thing, in what is less than a minute's time, we are going to be seeing that grid fill up, and well, it'll be roaring to the tune of what is a wonderful variety of GTE machines in this official GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT, brought to you on iRacing. And well, now we are just itching for that grid. As we do get ourselves set, of course, just a quick reminder, if you haven't had the opportunity yet to go grab yourself a little bit of liquid refreshment or perhaps some popcorn or a favourable snack, you better do so now, ladies and gentlemen, because qualifying is complete, and let's now make our way onto that grid and see how our drivers line up. So as we can see, starting on pole position will be Dominic Sissou, lining up there by 7/10 over Juan Martin, and the Iberian driver there taking P2. It's a Corvette lockout. On row number 2, Sylvain Delpech, the Frenchman, being joined by Axel Bergerman, and then we have on row number 3, Christian Doniger, and what is Daniel Langerman, who complete what is your third row. On row 4, it's Cedric Boissier, and alongside what will be Jose Garcia-Lacrosse, and then we do see Daniel Jozordovic ahead of Sven Bentman, who complete your top 10. On row number 6, it's Emil Stanisiu ahead of Peter Adrian, and then on what will be our next row of the grid on row number 7, it'll be Jörg Seefeld ahead of Ali Djebadoubi, and then we do have on row number 8, Sean Riley and Juan Arganones ahead of Raul Vera and Alejandro Romero, and our final full row of the grid to complete the top 20, it'll be Robert Rust and Stephen Massey, the American driver, and starting last but not least, Christopher C. Wayne, who, having not set a qualifying time, the Florida driver will be starting from the very back of the grid, but that grid now all getting itself into position, and well, if you do know any of the drivers here competing, if you are cheering on any particular drivers, do let us know in the YouTube chat. We do say hello there to Satinder Dinsa, who are saying about the dominant qualifying from Dominic Sissou to qualifying pole by 7/10. Remember, qualifying is just one part of the story, and whilst it's only a sprint race, only 45 minutes in duration, if you do use the official motorsport declaration for what is an endurance race versus a sprint race, or at least a feature race, one thing we can definitely tell you is the fact that around here, 45 minutes will feel like a long time, and well, it's very easy to make a mistake in what is the opening lap, and then have to do it all from the back of the field. But the grid is mostly in position. We do, of course, have the full formation lap, which we are waiting for our drivers to embark on, and we are just waiting for 2 of our drivers to get into position. But as we look further down the order, a wide array of machinery, we've got, I believe, one of every GT car, and well, ladies and gentlemen, here are our drivers then. The formation lap will get underway very shortly, and well, it will be to Dominic Sissou to take our drivers around and kick off what will be their one tour of the circuit, after which we will be going green flag racing. Now, it's quite a long formation lap here, and to tell you a couple of other parts about Road America. Firstly, this is one of the very limited number of circuits in the United States of America which has maintained its original road racing configuration all the way through its history as the drivers get underway there. And on top of that as well, given its length, it's also one of the most challenging when it comes to single laps, in the fact there is a lap of over 2 minutes, or approximately 2 minutes in these GT machines, so one of the longest circuits out there for racing in the United States. But it's a much loved circuit. It's one of those circuits whereby if you turn up as a spectator, you can pretty much camp out anywhere you want around the circuit and be able to watch the majority of the racing action. Given the fact it's a highly accessible circuit, and indeed a number of circuits known for that stateside, but definitely here at Road America as our drivers make the way on down. But as they do, and making the way on down in towards what will be at the first couple of corners, and everybody getting themselves absolutely set. Well, we do look to what will be none other, than some of the onboard to our drivers, and we're focusing in particular at the moment on Jörg Seefeld as he heads his way on down the second major stretch, and as he gradually brings the car down in number 13, qualifying in the space of his door number, which is absolutely intriguing. That's always a little bit of a positive spin if you're able to qualify above or at your door number. I think some drivers out there also think as though they've qualified a bit better than perhaps their iRacing would suggest, such as Sven Bentman here, who took P10, door number 19, and therefore he'll be looking to try and make some major gains here and hold on to those places nice and early as this formation lap continues its way on around. And well, as Bentman does so, we jump on board inside that Porsche 911 GTE, and well, right now the car quite silent from what is the inside, but you can imagine it's going to be absolutely screaming when he does go full throttle. And well, trying to get a bit of tyre temperature, get a bit of brake temperature on this formation lap. Of course, so drivers can't do too much weaving. They are required to hold what is the double fire formation around the entirety of this lap as he makes his way on down towards the hairpin. As he comes on down here towards that braking zone, one of the nastiest corners, we're here to take in at a very leisurely pace. When they do go for attack, you imagine they'll want to brake as late as possible. Now, if you're an uninitiated driver or alternative spectator and you're wondering what is GTE versus GT3, given the fact that the GTEs in real life have been replaced by GT3 machinery in the course of endurance racing, such as in the World Endurance Championship, well, GTEs, or the GT Endurance class, best known for the fact a little bit less aerodynamics compared to their GT3 counterparts, therefore making them much faster cars on the straights come their top speeds. And on top of that as well, these cars have traction control, but they do not have ABS or anti-lock braking systems. And what that means is, as a driver, you have to modulate the brakes and you essentially have to be your own anti-lock braking system. And I can tell you from experience, having raced in the bottom split of the official GTE Series in 2024, learning how to brake these cars. And I used to race in the BMW M8, of which we do have a couple of M8s here, including Robert Rust, who you can see there down in P19. Learn how to brake in these cars is absolutely pivotal. You want to be right towards the braking threshold initially on braking in, but where you won't trigger the ABS, but you will at the same time be able to get the car stopped as quickly as possible, and then you want to be smooth in sliding off the brakes and rotating the car. But go too aggressive on the brakes and you may find yourself locking up and very quickly going straight on at a corner and perhaps making haste towards a wall. But one driver who won't be looking to hit the wall straight away will be Dominic Sisu, and well, the pace car is now gradually beginning to pull its way away, and Sisu will now back the field up and set them on their way as they head for turn number 14. You can see already Sisu backing our drivers off, and let's take a look at his dashboard speed there, bottom right corner of your screen, and see when he decides to go green. And it's away we go, ladies and gentlemen. 45 minutes of racing get underway here at Road America, and Dominic Sisu immediately getting the launch. But look at this from behind. Juan Carlos Martin battling side by side with Sylvain Delpech as they head on down. The second of the Corvettes on the front row, seemingly under major pressure as they head into the opening braking zone. Everyone now absolutely attacking on the brakes as they come on down. But Delpech still there as they make their way through and gets into P2. Further back, we can see there Sven Bateman moving up some progress as well as he holds off Emil Stanisu as they come down towards turn number 3. A little bit of grass being picked up there. Oh, goodness me! And Benton straight on towards the barriers almost, but manages to get stopped in time. But I think we've had a bit of drama as well between a couple of drivers, and we'll just a tap of the grass and it all went wrong for Benton, but still more to come here, and you never know what's going to happen. As a result of that, we've seen some change in the position. Sean Riley moving up into P9. They're battling side by side with Ali Jemadubi as they come down towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they'll go once again, and the Ferrari driver up the inside of Riley, and the BMW trying to go for the cutback, can't quite find it, and Jemadubi moves up another place as I think Riley's going to take a look up here in towards the left-hander, but no can do. It's not easy to go too wide into the braking zone there, given the rise. But as they make the way down, where it looks so here now, things are starting to settle down into an order. We will try and get a replay of what happened in turn number 3 on the opening lap in due order. But now we'll start to see our drivers flex their muscle and make some progress as they head on around. And Dominic Sisu right now leading this race as he comes up towards what will be the king, the infamous fast right-hander, where it's going to be flat out all the way through here as much as you dare. And further back, Christian Doniger now moving up behind Daniel Langerham as they make the way onwards towards Canada Corner and getting down towards that braking zone at turn number 12. The Porsche driver getting close here behind the Corvette, looking for the opportunity but can't quite find it at the moment and therefore has to back out. Further back, Juan Arganez also now trying to make some pressure here on Sean Riley. Arganez having made 5 places since the start of this race. Great start starting from P16, and I think he might have capitalised on all that chaos and carnage at turn 3 on lap 1 as he makes his way up the rise and in towards turn number 14. We can see no way through there. But after one lap of racing, we've got plenty of time to go. It's Dominic Sisu who leads ahead of Sylvain Delpech in P2. We then have Juan Carlos Martin P3 ahead of Axel Wegerman in P4. And then it's Daniel Langerherman in P5 with Christian Doniger in P6. Jose Rodriguez in P7 ahead of Cedric Pozia P8. And then we do have Ali Jundubi P9 ahead of Sean Riley completing a top 10 with Juan Arganez completing the run to best of the rest P11. And we have had a retirement in this race in the form of Daniel Djordjevic. And well, that's very unfortunate for Djordjevic, I should say is his surname, and well, the Corvette driver out of this race. But speaking of being out of this race, well, it was Djordjevic who was involved in that open lap incident, and here's the replay. Coming down towards what was turn number 3, and as the drives made their way into the braking zone, what exactly happened here? Went hard on the brakes, a tap there to the rear of the number 3, sent around, collected a couple of cars, and a couple of drivers had to take evasive action. I believe Jörg Stierfeld and also Emil Stensiu are both caught up in that, and will damage the car for Djordjevic in the end, causing him to retire from the race. But let's return to your live racing pit because, ladies and gentlemen, as we do, well, we can start to see now after that open lap, things not as chaotic at this point in time, and therefore everyone now starting to get themselves into a rhythm as we do see Doniger making his way after Daniel Langerman, and as they head onwards out of the carousel and on towards the King, where it does look as though the Porsche now just staying in the tow as they roar the way towards the end of the second lap. Meanwhile, further back, Christopher Wayne, well, we can see the driver who's made 4 places since the start of this race. He's putting some pressure on here versus Stephen Massey, having started all the way down to P20, and well, an absolutely brilliant run out there. In fact, Wayne starting P21, that's right. But meanwhile, hold the ball there, as this is going to be a Robert Rust having to deal with some pressure from Peter Adrian. Adrian, the Porsche on the inside there, and will BMW goes a little bit wide at Canada corner, and Ross now losing the position as he makes his way up the crest here. And well, the BMW known better at straight line performance in this class, particularly at circuits like Road Atlanta, and well, it will be strong on the straights here if he's got the right setup to complement the car. But it looks like Rust, in fact, falling backwards a little bit there, and now here comes Massey, who's going to look for an opportunity, as will Wayne and Seafeld, as they all now start to build up some momentum in towards turn number 1 once again. But as they make the way on down, we have had a change of place further up the order. In fact, no, we haven't. That was a little bit of an internet connectivity issues for Del Pesh, and as a result, we thought Carlos Martin had made his way up into P2, but not so. Another drive's gone to lap number 3. Well, right now there's battling inside and outside the top 10. Speaking of the battling inside the top 10, we jump on board here with Daniel Langerman, the number 8 driver in P6 currently, chasing after Doniger as they head in towards turn number 5, and in towards the left-hander he goes, and as he does, no way to be able to look for a move, but instead having to wait once again here. And I think this might be the game of follow the leader for a bit and save some fuel, because remember, with the 50% fuel tank limitation, they will have to take a pit stop at some point to at least put some gas in the car, if not also take a bit of a tyre change. But typically you want to take the gas and nothing more as they make the way out of what is turn number 8 and into the carousel. We're coming on down through the run. We've got a question there from Vilu, which is what is the strength of field, or the SOF. We'll try and get that data to you very shortly, and in fact we can do so now. And the strength of field today, 3006, 3006. Let's put that in basic numerics, and well, hopefully that does help out for you, Vilu. And if you have any other questions, do let us know. We'll see what we can do to answer them. But here comes the move then from what is Rodriguez. He looks to the inside versus Langerman, and as they come down to the braking zone here, going all in on the brakes in that Porsche. And well, in the end, Daniel, I think they're just deciding, you know what, I'm going to lose the place. If I fight it or not, I might as well just lose the place, tuck in behind, and not lose as much time. And these Porsches really starting to come on strong. Meanwhile, let's not forget we've got some race leaders to look at, and here is your race leader, Dominique Sisu, and right now still leading this race. We can see Del Pesh behind in the Porsche, that brilliant start to move up into P2. Well, he's making some great progress here as they head onwards towards the next lap. And coming on down towards turn number 1, well, is this Sisu just backing off after a brilliant qualifying session, or is it the scenario whereby actually he might be finding, whilst he was the fastest over a single lap, in fact Del Pesh is the faster driver over the entirety of the race distance? Well, there's all those questions to be answered. There could also be some fuel saving being done here. Meanwhile, further back we've got another change of position into turn 1. That's Wayne up to P15 on a burst, and well, the BMW M8 driver going gradually backwards here under pressure. Meanwhile, speaking of pressure, that is Bentman versus Massey. Contact between the two of them, and they both go round, and oh goodness me, well, I don't want to be a racing steward here, but it looks as though both drivers in the end perhaps fighting for the same bit of space, and well, neither one wanting to give in, and well, as a result there, a bit of a difficult one, and I think Bentman and also Massey will both be a bit frustrated at that one, and Stephen Massey losing out the most there. And we'll do take a look back at what exactly happened. This is coming down to the braking zone, and Bentman on the inside, they're going all in. I think he'll feel as though Massey cut across on entry into the corner, whereas I think Massey would argue that Bentman was going for a space that was going to close. But either way, we're not assured. We're just here to provide the commentary, and that's what happened between the two of them down to turn 3. But as we return to all the racing and our drivers continue to push on, well, meanwhile, we do look back to the front of the field, and this top 3 has pulled away by 3.5 seconds here, and we're not even 10 minutes into the race distance, let alone a third at what would be 15 minutes, and these 3 all continue to push on. But as the number 1 Sisu continues to fly high, and indeed in that P1 spot, Juan Carlos Martin, who started P2, lost that place in the run down towards turn number 1 versus Del Pesh, and in the end Del Pesh fighting it all the way through into turn number 3. Well, these 3 drivers right now just simply running together, and I think all trying to play the game here, or just simply waiting for the opportunity in the pits. And it might be one of the scenarios whereby we see a bit of a change in the pit stop, and subsequently that is going to be where all all of the action really comes out in the second half of this race. But heading onwards here and in towards turn number 1, all three drivers stay together. Meanwhile, we do have a pit stop, in fact, for Cedric Boisier. He comes on in. Now, this is a very early pit stop. Has he got damage to the car? I don't think so, and I don't think he's picked up enough instance to potentially be picking up a drive-through penalty where he's on pit road, and that means that he's going to be coming to a stop at some point. But is this an early pit stop just to take on some fuel and decide to try and undercut the field in that Ford GTE? We'll have to wait and see. He does park up there, so it does look as though he might be going for a stop and might be trying to get the strategy out the way early. Looking back to Robert Rust, meanwhile, who's gained a little bit more time, and albeit under pressure now, he's gained a rival in the form of Jörg Seefeld. Seefeld riding all the way behind as we jump on board the nose here of what is the number 13 car as he heads down towards the braking zone for turn number 5. Looking to the inside here in the Porsche 911, can't quite find it, and well, Seefeld's got the speed in the toe, but he hasn't got the confidence on the brake chip to try and look for a move. As you see, both drivers are pushing it all out the hairpin and in towards what is turn number 6, coming through that left-hander, and Rust really now enjoying that run out the left into the right here. It does seem as though the BMW M8 drivers now getting to a bit more comfortable, and this Porsche meanwhile starting to fall back, heading in towards what will be turn number 10 very shortly. Well, from then we look back to the front of the field here, and Dominic Sisu continuing to lead, but notice that Double Hesh getting closer here after the kink, and in towards Canada Corner they go. So through turn 12 this time, and it does look as though Sisu right now under pressure to try and keep ahead of the field as he makes his way towards the end of this lap. Looking back from the rear of the car, and you can see what is 2 to 3 tenths of a gap. It doesn't seem like much when these drivers make their way on around, but here is the statistics in the bottom right corner of your screen. You can see the gaps between drivers in the battle for first, P1 through P5, and this top 3 are absolutely running away from the field by 4 seconds. But also notice there, interestingly, the fact that we do have what is Carlos Martin now 6 tenths behind Delpech going on to lap number 6, and therefore this could be a sign that perhaps the top 2 have got a bit more pace, and Martin is trying to hold on as much as he possibly can. The Sisu there just simply pulling to the inside, breaking the toe briefly, and we'll now see where he gets a good run out of turn number 3, because if he doesn't, he's going to be vulnerable coming down towards 5. This Corvette's got quite a bit of straight line speed on it compared to Delpech's Porsche, but the toe's going to help out, and the slipstream really does become prevalent at 4 tenths or less. It does enable you to gain that time as they make their way up towards turn number 5. Down towards that braking zone they go, and Delpech not thinking about it. You can see there what is a little bit of a flick to the inside from Carlos Martin, and one Carlos Martin I should say, and well, the P3 driver there just breaking the toe before the braking zone. The idea being getting out of the dirty air to help the car stop, given the fact these cars don't have as much aero as GT3s do, but they still have majorly large rear wings, and on top of that quite a bit of aerodynamic parts, and the idea is these cars do become a little bit unsettled in dirty air, and therefore by getting out that dirty air he just gives himself the better braking potential, and therefore can also sight up his apex better, but he'll smooth off the brakes and use trail braking to clear the corner on a very natural racing line, much like his rivals. As he comes down through the carousel and up towards what will be the kink once again. Meanwhile, we look back further down inside the top 10, and this is the run for P5, and it is Jose Rodriguez being chased by Christian Budiger as he makes his way in towards the kink and out of it, and behind him is Daniel Langerman, who is still there, still within the just about as they head in towards the next braking zone at what is Canada Corner, but not close enough to really get involved. And then we do have a 3-second gap to the ever-present BMW M8 of Sean Riley, and Riley right now continuing just to gradually make his way up this order up into P8, and it's starting to pull a little bit of distance on Gindovi and also Arganez. But again, these two I think just staying in the car that BMW and perhaps hoping the strategy will come to them. Speaking of strategy, we did have that pit stop earlier from what was our Ford GTE of Cedric Boisier, and we can see here right now running in P20, and well, it does look as though that was his scheduled stop. An 18.85 second stationary time would suggest fuel went in and no tyres, and well, right now the Ford GTE driver will be hoping that this is going to enable him to leapfrog his way out the field by running in clear air. Of course, the downside to this is he doesn't have the slipstream to work with, and that lack of slipstream may just cost him on the straights more than what he gains in the corners. As he makes his way on around, we look from the back of the field to the very front of the running field, and this is Sisu making his way down towards the left-hander, turning number 5 once again. We must lose the fault there, as we have had a bit of an instant for Alejandro Romero, and it does look as though here losing a place or two coming out of turn number 3. And what exactly happened is the big question many of you will be asking. Well, we'll hold the thought for a moment. We do have a replay queued up. But meanwhile, just behind, we might have a move coming here from Seafield on the Rust as they head in towards turn 5. Not to be banked, and will the battle to be just outside the top 10 is intensifying as Seafield goes a bit deep there of Apex in turn 5, but collects it just in time and makes his way onwards again towards the midsection of the lap. But speaking of replays then, let's have a look back at what happened to Alejandro Romero. Here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen, and this was Romero making his way in towards turn number 3. A little bit there, sideways coming from the apex, and the car just washing out. Perhaps a bit too much apex curve, and also a downshift that wasn't warranted as soon as he may have made it. And well, it looks as though there, the number 17 driver loses out one place, and still keeping himself well in the hunt. Coming back to your live at racing pictures towards the very front of the field, and well, in fact, not towards the front of the field, but here's a bit of a battle in amongst the top 10, and that is a swap for P9 between Aragonés and Gendoubi, and I believe there might have been an error through the kink for Gendoubi, and therefore that's enabled the Porsche 1 Aragonés to make his way up, Aragonés I should say, to make his way up the order, as we do say hello to Mark Ken there in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well, Mark. But as the drivers come towards the end of what is the 14th minute, and upwards they go. Well, I can tell you one thing right now, we've got battles everywhere on this track, and well, at the very front of the field still our leaders continue to push each other. Juan Carlos Martin, the P3 driver, still a little bit out of touch with this, albeit I get the feeling that for Martin, he's just simply watching in the distance and waiting to get himself more and more involved and go deeper and deeper into this race. Again, strategy could see him come together, and there were a couple of minutes earlier this week where the winner and second place finisher were separated by less than a second, and something tells me we are going to see that again here tonight at Road America as the top 3 continue to push on. And then looking back to P4, well, in the traditional Porsche 911 GTE livery, a livery that has become synonymous with this car, the RSR machine. Well, this is Axel Begemann as he heads in towards, excuse me, at turn number 6, and well, tell me of a more definitive Porsche livery, minus the gold ones of course, I dare you, as he heads out the right-hander and down towards turn number 8. You can see just behind Jose Rodriguez and also Christian Doniger making the way on through as well, and Langeroman still right there with them as these 3 battle over P5 and try to bring down Jose Rodriguez and GC as they roar their way on around. As the drivers come out of the right-hander here and onwards they'll go towards the kink. We look back up towards the battle between P2 and what is our leader, and very close this time. In fact, less than 2 attempts before the break-ins over Canada corner, but decides to back off, and we actually jump on board here and let's listen in. Now the Porsche absolutely attacking there through turn 13, through the what is the medium speed chicane, albeit Delpech not quite able to maintain that closest going at the corner, and we can see there a little bit of a potential fake dive to the pits from Sisu, and well, it does seem as though the strategy window is now starting to open up, and I get the feeling that Sisu might not be enjoying as much pressure as he is receiving from Delpech, and therefore might be just simply trying to get into the mind of his rivals. But then again, Sylvain right now absolutely keeping him honest every step of the way as they head down towards turn number 3. Juan Carlos Martin, meanwhile, behind is now closing up, back up to 5 temps on the back of Delpech, so it does look as though this top 3 are coming together. And could this be Martin's time to try and get involved and perhaps steal a place away? Alternatively, pull the pit stop trigger early and then put the pressure on the top 2 to react. Meanwhile, outside the top 10, looking back here to Rourke and Seafield, and what we can see battling after Robert Rust, still looking up the inside here in towards the right-hander at turn 3. Wasn't meant to be as he comes on through, decides to back off, and the BMW M8 still holding on there. The second part 2 BMW M8s in the field, and look at Seafield this time so much closer than he has been on previous laps. The gap less than what he attempts, he comes on down, but in fact backing off the throttle there, not closing up anymore, and we can tell that based on the delta between the 2 drives. But Raldera gets in it a little bit wrong there into the braking zone, braking a bit prematurely, and therefore backing up the trio as these 3 continue to contest P13. They're chasing after Alejandro Romero, who's just in front, who had his off earlier at turn number 3 of course, and brought him backwards into this fight, and therefore moving down to P12. But it looks as though Vera might just be keeping that battle for P13 in the forefront of his mind and just trying to break away. Now, tyre wear will be a consideration for our drivers. The tyres do gradually wear, but you can do a full 45 minutes on a single set of tyres. We see a slide there from Vera making its way out to the carousel and onwards towards what will be the kink. And it does look as though right now some drivers are really pushing it. And of course, a lot of these machines, the GTs being mid-engine rear-wheel drives, they put a lot of pressure and weight over the rear tyres. The only exception is the BMW M8, which is front-engine rear-wheel drive. side, albeit mid-front engine, if my memory serves me correctly, in terms of where the twin-turbo V8 engine is located. So the BMWs will have a bit better displacement with regards to tyre wear, but then again, the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Corvette, and also the Ford do have the better natural rotation in the car, given the weight distribution. Coming up towards turn 14, and right now, these four drives all running together. It does look that Rivera has been pulled into that fight, given the fact he is now only 6 tenths ahead. As meanwhile, into the pit comes from what was P15 at the time. George Seatbelt, he decides he's had enough of being in what is that long line of cars. The sirens blare for a car coming down the pit lane, and he decides it's his time to strike. Now, we did, of course, see Cedric Boissier make his way into the pit early on. Where is he going to come out in all of this? Well, we'll keep you posted, ladies and gentlemen, but this is perhaps the first of a number of pit stops that we are going to see triggered now as we start to head deeper and deeper into this race. And well, Boissier making his way out of turn at number 12 and up towards 14 he goes, and as he does so, well, looking like right now that early pit stop may net him at least one place, but the problem is how many more places is it going to gain him? And in terms of lap times, well, his laps consistently in the mid to low 2 minutes. That last lap a 2 minute point. And well, for Boissier, it may be an opportunity here to gain a little bit, albeit I think he's going to come out behind Seefeld. Here's Seefeld leaving the pit lane, and Boissier in the rear of the pit, you can see there. So therefore, for the Ford driver, it hasn't actually worked out to know when to jump up, but we'll wait and see just how far he can go a little bit later on. As meanwhile, we look back to those leaders as we come towards the end of 20 minutes of racing, and Sisu now starting to open up a little bit more of a gap as he heads in towards the right-hander turn 12. But then again, it's all to wait and see whether we are going to get a battle out of them that will happen on circuit initially, or whether it will start off in the pits, or whether it will at all, because we never know what strategy might be employed here. And if Sisu has been doing some fuel saving, well, firstly, how he's been able to do it under such pressure, I don't know. But one thing I do know is there is he feints towards the pit lane again, trying to make Delpeche and also Martin think that he's coming on in, but not so. And right now, these three tries absolutely locked in. And you can see, wherever Sisu goes on the straight, Delpeche will follow in that Porsche. He needs the toe to stay with that Corvette. It does seem as though Delpeche has a lot of speed through these corners and a lot more confidence in the apex speed of the car. But the problem is he just doesn't quite have that straight line speed, and that is what's pushing him backwards slightly on the long stretches. As meanwhile, into the pits out my Conte booth window, we do have Robert Vera, who's come on in from what was at the time P13, so releasing Robert Rust and Christopher Wayne. And we're speaking of those two drivers, here they are, as Wayne on the back of the BMW M8 driver, having a look for a move into turn 1. Is he going to go for it? No, he decides not to. And I think they're recognising the fact that closing approach to the apex is a long braking zone. Well, in the end, no need to do so right now. He'll go for the strategy move, or he'll go later on this lap. Will be able to back off as he did. That has cost him quite a bit of time. In fact, it's caused the gap to open up as they power their way out to turn number 3. A better exit there for Wayne. Gets them a bit closer as they head on towards turn number 5. Will there be a move here? Well, here we go as they head down towards the left-hand right angle corner on towards the brakes, and it's going to be a look up the inside from Wayne, who's starting from the back of the field. No qualifying, that goes all in. You can see there sees him coming, too wide on exit, but Crystal Wayne is going to get a nose ahead here on the rise in towards turn number 6, and that will be a move made for what is the number 18 driver. Another place gain for Crystal Wayne. Coming out of the corner, and meanwhile looking back to the leaders. Well, right now this is the battle for the top 3 spots all together, less than 4 tenths between them as they come down into the braking zone, and well, making their way out to the right hander and up the hill they'll go. The brief run uphill, of course. Well, these 3 drivers are absolutely pushing each other to the limit, and it does look as though at this time that the trio really right now putting that pressure on each other respectively as Sisu comes out of the final corner. Does he peel to the pits this time, I wonder? And the answer is no, and he doesn't need to feint it, given the fact a poor run out of the final corner for Sylvain Delpeche, and therefore now the Porsche driver under pressure from the other Corvette of Juan Carlos Martin, as we can see the 3 drivers heading in towards turn number 1. Juan Carlos Martin getting closer and closer, in fact 2 tenths between them, but decides not to go for the move, and I think they're being very cognizant of the fact that this race could be won on the strategy as he comes out of the right-hander in towards turn 3. As we start to make our way towards the very halfway point of this race, we are into lap number 12. We're going to get plenty more laps in the Road America before we see that checker flag, and we have got some more pit stops playing out now, as it does look as though we do have Robert burst into the pits. Oh my goodness, what on earth has happened there? I think it might be that one driver has broken a lot earlier than the other and perhaps scared another driver who decides to brake a bit later. It looks like they're Rust and Bentman both almost coming to tears in the braking zone for the pit limiter line, and with some drivers very confident at how close they can hit that pit limiter line, others decide to be more cautious, and well, caution, to be fair, avoids giving you a drive-through penalty or at least a black flag. Meanwhile, looking back, one driver who pitted early earlier, and he's come right out behind a driver who he was in battle with earlier on. Here's Jorgstiefeld, and in front of him is Nathan Rulvera, and these two pitting on very different laps, and will right now literally nose to tail once again. Meanwhile, out of the pit lane will come none other than Robert Rust. Where is he going to be as he exits the pit lane? Because we do have Vera and Seefeld coming up, and well, in fact they are going to make the way past here, and therefore Rust has lost out compared to the two of them in the pits, having a very cautious pit stop and also a bit more time in the pits compared to his rivals, and that is what has been the delta between them. But as a result, it does mean that Vera and Seefeld have broken away from Robert Rust based on the pit strategy. So therefore they'll push a little bit further up the order, and Rust right now will be under pressure from none other than Cedric Boissier, who has caught up behind him, and then there's Sven Bendren, who has lost out massively in the pits and dropped all the way down to P19. Then we've still got more pit stops to come, so these are not the final positions for what is this second half of the race that we're now starting to tiptoe away onto. But speaking of tiptoes, it's nowhere near tiptoeing right now if your name is Sylvain Delpech, as he's under increasing pressure. Looking back here from where's the P3 car of, well, looking back at where's the P3 car of Juan Carlos Martin, who's getting closer. And well, we had to skip away from that rear camera because in fact the Corvette taking the rear camera off the car, getting that close. But as they come out of turn one and down towards turn number 3, well, these drivers now starting to head onto the brakes here for what is the right-hander before going on to that next stretch of road. And you can see at the fact that Sisu is starting to open up a little gap and might just be able to afford doing some little bit, might be able to afford to do a little bit more fuel saving as they head inwards towards turn number 5. We've got more pit stops playing out meanwhile, and this is Juan Aragonés, who's coming down. I've been saying his surname as Aragonés for some time. I do apologise, Juan, if you do listen to this back later, and I'm sure I've butchered a few surnames here today, and if I have, I do apologise sincerely. But meanwhile, make no apologies, we just catch what is the closing throws of a move for P4 between Jose Rodriguez and what is Axel Begerman, and well, Begerman losing out there, and I believe it might have been a poor run out of what was turn number 3 that triggered this off, as Rodriguez running very close to what is the exit out of turn number 5 and 6, and we're in the end just about keeping it on the tarmac. And my goodness, is the Porsche driver trying to attack, and when it looks so now he's saved all his pace up for just before the pit stop, and therefore he's going to go all in here as he now looks potentially to come into the pits within the next couple of laps, because these fuel tanks can go a little bit over the halfway mark, typically heading towards what is about 30 minutes, after which they will need to pit, depending on how much fuel saving they've done. But we'll have to wait to see who has been able to keep that tank as high as top up as possible. As from where it's the battling here, we take a look back at exactly how Jose Rodriguez made the move. So it was a run coming from turn 3, down through the kinks of 4 and in towards 5, and Rodriguez in the end just having the overspeed and getting the move done down to the braking zone, and a very smooth move indeed as he went up the inside. But there was compliance for Axel Begerman, no doubt about that. But meanwhile, our leaders come into the pits. We come back at a pivotal time here for what will be a change of, well, in fact, a refuel, but we're not sure there's going to be a change of tyres for any of our drivers. But the key point being here, as our leaders all coming in, everyone's going to pile in right now if they haven't already made a pit stop. Although saying that, one driver carries on here. He's going to go a 14th lap without needing to pit, and that will be Daniel Langerman, who right now has done a fantastic job of keeping that fuel tank going. Has he got enough to make this lap? I think he's calculated he will have. It might be coughing as he gets to his pit box, but I had to wait to see the car, not the driver, I should point out. But meanwhile, what's going to happen in the pits here as all the drivers come into their boxes? Well, we do see that Sisu parked up also Juan Carlos Martina, but it is Sisu who's moved away immediately, and therefore we continue as we were, and as they make the way out of pit stalls and in towards turn number 1, Dominic Sisu in theory is your race leader when the pit stops all tallied. Sylvain Delpech has fallen back to now 8.5 tenths back, and meanwhile Juan Carlos Martin in the end having a bit of a poor pit stop, in fact losing 3 seconds in the pits compared to his rolls, a slow stop for what was our Corvette driver, and therefore you can see him here down to P4, effectively P3 when all strategy is considered. But it is a big loss there for Martin, who was doing very well to hold on to the top 2, but this now may have become a 2-horse race for victory. That's coming down towards turn number 5 at the end of that braking zone. He'll look to try and make up the time as much as possible, as meanwhile, leaving the pit lane, the driver who started from last place and not set a lap. He's made a lot of progress so far. Here's Christopher Wayne, and Wayne right now finds himself into P14 ahead of Brovera and Emil Stensiu. And we can see the Ferrari 488 driver here. He's lost out in the pits, in fact, dropped behind Vera. He was ahead of him before the pit stops, if my memory serves me correctly. And while Dawn number 7 driver right now really struggling with seam over the course of the race distance after qualifying very well, starting P11. We did get a bit roughed up through that altercation early on in the race, and we're coming down towards turn number 5. He's going to look for the move out Vera for P14, and well, the Porsche driver locking up the brakes there and taking towards the escape runoff area. And Stensiu making his way up to P15, but no, there's a lot more places out there if he can find them. We're on his way out of turn 6, 7 and in towards 8 very shortly. Well, right now the Ferrari driver will know his next target is Christopher Wayne, and this Ferrari is a bit of a dark horse in the fact he can be very strong, but the downside is it does have a tendency to really overheat its rear tyres, and I've been able to glean down the paddocks of recent months, and therefore that's why the Ferrari is normally one of those cars that goes strongly at the start of the race, but starts to fall away the deeper you go in unless you can manage that tyre life. But looking to our leader, at least our leader on circuit, he won't be our leader strategy-wise much longer, Daniel Langerman, who did very well to make it 14 laps on a single tank of fuel, whereas everyone else took 13. But it does mean that now we do see him drop down the order as Dominic Sisu and moves back up into the lead of this race. And with a 1.6 second advantage over Sylvain Delpech, it looks though now the Corvette driver may have just done enough. But meanwhile, where does Langerman come out for this? Well, he drops down to P7 on our timing tower, but he makes it out in P7 after going one lap extra. So he has gained a little bit of race time compared to some of his rivals, including Jose Rodriguez, also Axel Begerman, who are at the centre of our screen right now in their battle for P4. But Langerman has still got some work to do if he wants to try and get a top 5 finish here with just over 15 minutes left in the race distance. Well, the driver's roaring the way down here, and Begerman looking at that inside. Just taking a trying to send a message there to Rodriguez. Look, no, you need to know I'm here. I'm still chasing you. And Rodriguez will be looking up his rearview mirror or his left-hand mirror and going, I know you're there, Axel. I don't need a reminder. But as they head up towards turn number 6, these two continue to push each other on. Meanwhile, Christian Gunninger, right now, I should say, the driver in the number 5, a little bit out of touch that battle for P5, and I think a bit cognizant of the fact he might be reeled back in to a battle on further down the order, as meanwhile into the pit lane again comes none other than Cedric Boissier, and I believe that's his second pit stop of today, and perhaps the first pit stop was for damage on the car, and the second pit stop is actually to take on some fuel, as meanwhile we had a bit of an altercation here coming out of turn 5 into a 6, but that's Jörg Seefeld up to P13, and well, the pack right now running nose to tail here, and I think Wayne in the end may have had a bit of a moment down into the turn 5 braking zone, but look, Stensiu up the rear of the Corvette, and the Ferrari driver right now looking to go on the offensive as we jump on board with the 488 GTE as he heads in towards the long carousel, and as he comes on through the right-hander, well, no way to attack here, and a bit of dirt here. You can see the front end of the car just washing out slightly there before the midpoint of the long right-hander, and therefore losing all the speed on exit. And that's the thing, when you're running so close behind one of your rivals, you've got to get a really tight turn in there, because otherwise the front of the car will just gradually understeer away, not because you've got it wrong, but because the dirty air says you can't go that way. But as they come down in towards Canada Corner right now, these three really only separated by 4 tenths apiece as they head up into the next braking zone, and as they do, well, these drivers absolutely push each other all the way as he heads in towards turn number 14, and right now Emil Stensiu would love to take an opportunity as Wayne there goes very deep into turn 14, collects the car in time, but making a mistake. Is Wayne struggling right now for what is the brakes or alternatively the tyres in terms of some heat? Well, we'll have to find out, because we do have a replay as to what exactly happened down at turn number 5, and here is the replay. So this was coming down in towards the left-hander, and this was between Seefeld and Wayne. Wayne went very, very late on the brakes. I think might have got a bit unsighted. Got it stopped though, and if he'd been able to stop the car from wobbling there, it could have been an absolutely brilliant move. But Seefeld immediately cut him back in. So Wayne, in the end, I think literally on the threshold of locking up and going either straight on and perhaps tapping Seefeld, alternatively having to run off into the gravel. But very well controlled there by the American driver and getting it back together, and that's what's led to the battle between those two. But return to the live racing pictures here. Back on board with Stensiu, Emil Stensiu in at the number 7 here, and we can see Seefeld there blocking the middle of the road, and Wayne in the end getting caught out by that and goes wide, and Stensiu up a place into P14. I don't think Christopher Wayne's going to be too pleased about that, and therefore now he's got to try and find a way to get back, but now he's got a Ferrari in his way, and that's not going to make him any happier today as they head on down through turn number 7. right-hander they go, and well, from our drivers who are battling outside the top 10, we also got battling inside the top 10. Our top 3 may have split apart, but the battle for P4 and the first spot off of the podium is definitely right now heating up, as it's Jose Rodriguez GC ahead of Axel Begerman, and as they head out of turn number 12 and up through 13A and 13B, what is the right into left complex, we can see right now both these drivers absolutely glued together, and when we look back from the rear of what is the number 3 car, and well, he has got the number 6 behind him. These two drivers inside the top 10 in terms of their iRatings for this strength of field lobby of 3006. Roaring the way onwards here. It does look as though right now the driver's absolutely going all in. And in fact, I think we can permanently display the strength of field on the screen. And well, if we can, we will do so for you, ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, there we go. Albeit it is blocking our race time remaining, but we do have that strength of field just being confirmed on screen for a brief moment. We will get that amended for the purposes of next week's broadcast. If you'd like to see one next week for week number 6. But we'll try to head on down towards what is turn number 5. Well, right now, no movement between these two, and perhaps they're both just sized each other up for what will be the last few minutes of this race. Well, only time will tell, and there the drivers will dictate exactly what they're planning. But of course, we can only guess at this point as Rodriguez under a bit more pressure from Begerman. Begerman once again just pulling out the toe to get rid of the dirty air on the front of that Porsche, but also to send the message, which is it's coming. You just don't know when I'm going to look for the move. But I get the feeling that Rodriguez might know when it's coming, and I think he'll feel like it's coming within the last 1 to 2 laps. And as they head on down towards turn number 8, meanwhile we look a little bit further back to a driver we haven't really talked about recently. In fact, 2 drivers we haven't talked about recently, and that is Sean Riley in the BMW M8 chasing after Juan Aragonés. And well, as they head down towards the braking zone for what is turn number 7. Well, these drivers right now, in fact, turn number 8 there, let's get our numbers right, and through the carousel they go. They're still absolutely giving it everything here, although Sean Riley, I think now starting to identify the fact that Porsche just has a little bit more leverage in those corners, albeit as he heads on towards the King. No signs of him giving up here, and we're Riley having a brilliant race. So started P15, made some nice early gains in the opening couple of laps, and after that really has settled down into this race. Good pit stop as well, not losing him at any time. It gained a little bit on at the top 10 and enabled him to be able just to move the way up. As he heads out of Canada corner. Meanwhile, let's look back to our leader here as we say hello to Hockey Freak 3034, who's cheering on there, I think, or at least saying with regards to Dominique Sisu, an absolutely giga driver there, and indeed a giga performance in the Corvette C8R. And we can see that gap right now, almost 3.5 seconds. The second place driver, Sylvain Delpech, and well, the Porsche driver's giving it everything. But meanwhile, hold the fort there. We've had some gravel get displaced. In fact, we've had a change of position, or have we? As it's a look around the outside into 14. From what is Astencio ahead of, well, trying to get ahead of Alejandro Romero. Can't quite find it, but now we can see that Wayne right in the back of this as they make the way up the ride underneath on camera gantry, and as they roar onwards here down towards what will be turn number 1. You can see Wayne looking one side, then looking the other, trying to get ahead of the Ferrari, as they're all right now trying to find a way past Romero. Romero holds his racing line. Stancio goes defensive, and Romero in the end just simply can use the Ferrari having to go defensive as his defense. So some very smart driving from Alejandro. Other drivers less experienced, or at least less confident in their abilities, may have gone defensive there. But the Porsche driver 9, that all he needs to do is make sure the Ferrari fights the Corvette, and he doesn't need to do anything else other than that. But that definitely started off on a bit of a crazy moment. We will take a look back at what happened very shortly with regards to the battle here, because it does mean that Jörg Seefeld has moved all the way up to P12. We're coming down in towards the left-hander turn number 5. Well, right now, these drivers absolutely nip and tuck in terms of running together. And you can see Wayne, they're trying to get a bit closer on exit, but runs wide. And in fact, that is going to cost them some time. As meanwhile, that Ferrari is incredibly close to the back of that Porsche as they make the way out of 6 in towards 7. We ride on board the nose here of what is the number 7 Ferrari, then Milstanciu. And as he comes down towards that braking zone, no way in at the moment. But you can see Archie's pushing, and Romero really struggling for traction now. Exit, gravel all over the road there from running wide, and as the gravel chips fall off, almost taking our camera off the front of the car, at least cracking it. Well, right now, going for the cut back there, but Stancio not quite able to get the exit. We expect the Porsche is the better on exit these medium speed corners. That Ferrari is definitely fine and seems to be in the comfortable place. But how does this all start is the question. Well, once we get towards the end of this lap, we'll show you, ladies and gentlemen, because Christopher Wayne right now, I think, trying to tee up a move here in that Corvette as he looks at one side, then the other, but decides against it. And well, without further ado, here's the replay. This was coming out Canada corner. It was a run wide from Alejandro Romero, and in the end, Jörg Seefeld deciding, you know what, you don't need to invite me twice, and just going to the inside, and well, very bold to go for all that there, but sometimes you've got to be bold in order to make things happen, and that boldness paying off for the number 13. live racing, still 8 minutes plus the final lap on the clock, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we come back to this battle for P13. The Jorge Seatbelt has already made his way off into the distance, and Alejandro Romero this time does not have the tow to work with. Stansfield meanwhile does not have the pressure of a Corvette to work with, and as they head down to turn 1, 2 wide, they go on entry, and as they come on around, well, a little bit of space being given there for Stansfield to exist, but Romero making sure to squeeze the door as tightly shut as he could, and coming in towards turn number 3. Well, these drivers right now all egging each other on. As you can see there, Romero once again a small slide out the exit of turn 3. The rear tyres of that Porsche right now definitely started to feel the heat, and also some tyre life escaping him, but Romero right now trying to hold on for dear life here, and well, you can understand why, given the fact that if he takes P13, he'll definitely feel as though he's performed well today, having qualified P18, gaining 5 places. Solos being made as overtakes, not just gaining from what was the early lap altercations between our drivers, and well, right now Romero holding on for dear life here as he makes his way on around, but as he does so, coming down in towards turn number 7, where it's all going to be about nailing these corners all the way to the end and not letting that Ferrari get the better of him. Speaking of drivers trying to get the better of each other, well, here is Jose Rodriguez still under pressure from Axel Begerman, and well, these two Porsche drivers, they're getting closer and closer lap after lap. I mean, how close does Axel Begerman want to leave it before he tries to look for a move? And the answer is he'd love to touch that rear wing, albeit pick up a fine if this was an FIA sanctioned race. And as they head on through turn number 14, well, right now you can see that Begerman absolutely on the back of his rivals. We jump on board here, but this time surely he's got to go for it. He's now moving at 10th as they cross the timeline, and as they do, well, right now Begerman pushing him forward, in fact, deciding, you know what, they're going to carry the fight on to the very end of this race. Perhaps they feel as though if they work together, they might be able to catch up to Juan Carlos Martin, or is Begerman playing the mind games here and just trying to get Jose Rodriguez to settle down and think that the move's never coming? Well, I don't know the history and I don't know what the plans are of Axel Begerman, but that is definitely something we did not expect to see. And therefore, right now, I think this battle for P4 is going to go on for a little bit longer as the drivers continue to roar onwards as far as they can. And as they do, coming on down in towards what will be turn number 5. Well, no change between them at this time as they roar their way through the left-hander, and well, Begerman still keeping his head comfortably down all the way his way up the hill in towards turn number 6, and an opportunity is going to come at some point, but when exactly is it going to come as he makes an error there on the exit 6, and look at how the gap has opened up. It's practically tripled the gap up to 7/10, albeit he'll probably try and close it down very quickly, but meanwhile, speaking of closing things down, one battle that's gone away to one battle that's come firmly on display, stands up the inside here of Romero all the way to turn 5, and Romero not fighting this time, and I think respect, oh goodness me, he goes deep, and as a result, here comes Woody Romero back up the inside, and Alejandro Romero will take a bow, good sir, because that is some very smart racing, and I think Emil Stanciu thought he got it done, and then his son realised, I've just carried a couple too many miles an hour into the braking zone and broken it too late to respect them. Well, if only he got that settled down, it would have been a brilliant move, but Alejandro Romero says, no you don't, and holds it to P13 for a little bit longer as they roar their way around through turn number 10 and coming on out of the carousel now up towards what will be the king. Well, these drivers continue to push each other on, and Crystal Wayne at this point, well, if you're in his shoes, he must be absolutely enjoying the spectacle and thinking, I've just got away at the right time, I might be able to get both of them, as they push their way out of the king and on towards Canada Corner, up towards turn 12, and as they come in towards that right-hander, well, here comes Stanciu once again. He thinks about it, but no such run, and I think right now his mindset is firmly on Wood's making sure that Wayne doesn't get past, and at the same time he can be the one to put the pressure on Romero all the way up towards that checker flag. We've got 4 minutes left, and with our leaders going on to lap 21, the best part of what was about 30 seconds ago, I think we're going to have one is our 21st lap, a 22nd, perhaps even a 23rd, and will our drivers have fueled enough in order to get to the end of the race? Well, I suspect they will have, but some drivers might be needing to do a little bit of extra fuel saving if they haven't already considered it, but no fuel saving here from Emil Stanciu, as this time he gets very close. Does he go for into one? If he does, he's going to leave it until very late, decides not to, and Romero right now just simply holding position as we look back from the rear of the Porsche 911 RSR that's been under so much pressure, but here comes Stanciu looking up the inside in towards turn number 3, a slight chop on the nose there, but I get the feeling that Stanciu just trying to get Romero to go deep and not really trying to put all the move on, and well, it's risky to try and do that because of course if you tap your rival in front, well, your rival's not going to be very happy, but Stanciu putting that pressure on. Here comes the Ferrari, and he pulls out to the inside as they make the way down towards the braking zone. Here they go, they survive. There's Wayne. Wayne makes it 3 wide on the braking, goes all in, and well, it's going to be Stancy who gets ahead, but now Romero being caught out there. I don't think he expected what was the Corvette to come absolutely charging down the inside, and it's a 2-for-1 pass from Alejandro Romero, and well, El Stancio and Crystal Wayne pick up the places there, and Alejandro Romero, who did phenomenally to hold on to P13 for so long, is suddenly robbed in broad daylight by what is a Ferrari and a Corvette. Well, my goodness me. Well, that was brilliant racing between the trio, and it may not be over yet because Emil Stancio now needs to try and get away from Wayne, and well, I can tell you one thing, this Ferrari driver, how much has he taken out of himself and the car in order to get this done? Well, we'll soon find out as they head onwards towards the King. But meanwhile, from them to a much more peaceful front of field driver, Dominique Sissou, and right now absolutely dominating. His best laps of the race being in the 58s, much like many of the front of the field drivers early on, but consistently lapping in the mid 59s, 59.415 that last lap, and will right now absolutely comfortably rolling on. But meanwhile, speaking of comfort, well, there's no comfort here for Crystal Wayne, who's actually fallen back behind one is Alejandro Romero. Now, how has that happened? Something tells me that's happened into Canada Corner. Well, here's a quick replay to explain. Coming down towards Canada Corner, and Romero getting the best run out the King, and that Corvette looking vulnerable, and Romero just dives up the inside in the end. Natural overtake there, and we've got the door firmly shut. Wayne did think about trying to go to the inside of 13A, well, in fact 13B, but couldn't quite find it. And Alejandro Romero gaining 1 place back at least. Can he get another before the race is over as our drivers make the way on through? I think we will get 1 more lap after this. We will get a 23rd and final lap as our race leader pushes on, and well, this battle here for P13 will take a brief breather, but not for long. Thank goodness. I can tell you one thing, my cup has run dry in terms of liquid refreshment at this point. I don't know how long my voice is going to last. Battle drives ahead out turn 3 down towards 5. We do look to what is a little bit further up the order to P10 driver Ali Gendoubi, and what we can see here right now, the Ferrari driver who did put some pressure on Sean Riley a little bit earlier on. That pressure not really coming about, and therefore now in a position whereby it does look as though his attention more focused on what is just simply getting to the end, with Peter Adrian closing little by half a second on the previous lap. But the P10 driver here, having started P14, I think you'll feel as though this is a place that's relatively safe, and the top 10 finishes always nice in an official race. He heads up towards the King. As he does so, meanwhile, our race leader comes past my commentary window and goes on to the final lap of this race with only 35 seconds left on the clock. But meanwhile now, surely we are going to see where's the eruption. It's battle for P4 on the final lap, or are we, as these two push each other on? We're looking back from the rear, and where's the number 3 of Jose Rodriguez GC, and then that's Axel Begerman, the other Porsche, who is chasing in the number 6 as they head on to 1 more tour of Road America today. And as they roar their way down, will Begerman not close enough this time? And as he heads up towards the next corner, will he get the better exit out of turn 1? Will Begerman? We'll have to wait and see here as they come down. It's a shorter run, of course, a much shorter run through the Kinker 2 in towards 3. No can do. Albeit now as they exit the corner, Rodriguez goes a little bit deep. That is going to enable that gap to stay nice and tight as they power their way down. The second longest run on the circuit compared to the start-finish line straight. And then in towards turn 5. Will there be a move this time from Begerman? He's going to go to the inside immediately here. He decides, right, now's the time to strike. Rodriguez holds the outside. They go 2 wide in. Will they be on exit? Well, it will be Begerman who holds the inside up the hill into turn 6. He's got a slightly ahead there on the braking. And, well, in the end, Jose Rodriguez has to let it go and drops the P4 for now. And it looks like Axel Begerman has finally made that move. He kept the pressure on all the way through this second half of the race. And in the end, decided to go for it right at the close as they come on down towards turn 7. Meanwhile, we've got a slowdown being served for Jörg Seefeld there. And I believe that's for an error coming out of turn number 3. Or at least it's a slowdown. If not, there's an issue with the car. And, well, therefore, he's losing places. And that means that Emil Stancio and Alejandro Romero move up. But Seefeld is going to defend there in towards what is turn number 5. But meanwhile, we need to look to the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen, because here is the man who put the car on pole, and in the early stage of the race he was under major pressure from Sylvain Delpech and Juan Carlos Martin. Martin in the end seemed to be more about trying to keep the speed and staying with the leaders, but Delpech kept the pressure on. But after the pit stops, Sisu nailed the pits, he nailed the run for the first couple of laps, and as the checker flag waves, he nails victory here at Road America in week 5 of the 2025 season 1. What is GTE Series GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT, I should say. Sylvain Delpech finishes P2, and then it will be Juan Carlos Martin who completes the podium there, P3, in what was a brilliant drive, but in the end just didn't quite have enough legs in the tank to chase down the top two. Axel Beckman will take P4. There has been a change of place on the final lap, back and forth between them, but in the end, it will be the number 6 row settles it ahead of Jose Rodriguez. P6 will go to Christian Doniger, and then we will see Daniel Langerman, who gambled on going the longest of everybody in the pits to take P7. One Aragonese stay at finish, P8 ahead of Sean Riley, and then Adrian Duby completed the top 10. P11 went the way for best rest of Peter Adrian, a very quiet and what was anonymous race ahead of Emil Stanciu, who will come to line here just ahead of Alejandro Romero to take P12, and then it will be Christopher Wayne who finishes behind them, P14, just keeping Raul Vera behind, completing that top 15. Robert Rust P16, and then we will see Jorgen Seefeld coming across the line in due course, or will we? No, in fact, he's crawling along here. Has he run out of fuel? I think he has. He'll tow to the pits, but that is heartbreaking this race for what was Seefeld, and in the end, well, Rust has already finished the race. It will therefore be so the misfortunate Cedric Boissier, who will finish P17 in the N9. It wasn't to be today in the sole Ford machine as he comes across the line there. P17 starting P7, but still plenty of opportunities over the course of this season to get back into the top 10. And then we will see Stephen Massey, last but not least, our finishers in P18. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race from lights out to checker flag. And let's take a look at those race results, and here they are for the top split at 1900 GMT or UTC on this Friday the 17th of January 2025 for season 1 of the GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT on iRacing, week number 5. And as we can see there, victory for Dominique Sisu, taking that win by 3.7 seconds over Sylvain Delpech. Juan Martin finishing at P3 there, Juan Carlos Martin, in what was an absolutely solid race there to round off the podium. Axel Begerman P4 ahead of Jose Rodriguez GC, and then we saw Christian Doniger P6, just missing out there for Melazani Racing, but still enjoying the run to P6, and in the end comfortably ahead of Daniel Langerman. And Daniel Langerman, of course, gambling on the strategy, trying to go the longest of everybody, and well, it paid off to give him clear air, but it didn't pay off to move him any further up the overall position order. But you're still ahead of Juan Aragonés and also Sean O'Reilly and Ali Jindabi, with the Ferrari driver there completing your top 10. Peter Adrian, best rest P11 ahead of Emil Stanciu, and then we saw the top 15 rounded off by Alejandro Romero, Christopher C. Wayne, and Raul Vera, with Wayne having started from the back of the field to do well to finish P14 in that brilliant back and forth fight between himself, Stanciu, and Romero. And then from Raul Vera in P15, we saw Robert Rust, Cedric Boissier, Stephen Massey, and then to complete the finish in order of our 21 starters, well, unfortunately, P19 and a lap down for Jorgen Seefeld after running out of fuel on the final lap of the race, and then unfortunate early retirements and commiserations for Sven Bentman and also Daniel Jozdovic. But 21 starters, 19 finishers, of which, ladies and gentlemen, 18 on the lead lap. And what a race, no doubt about it. But that concludes our racing here today at Road America, at least in this top split session. But there will, of course, be plenty more as we go into the weekend and, of course, into the weeks ahead. Speaking of which, if you've enjoyed the racing today and you've enjoyed having this broadcast, well, we do invite you, if you'd like to see another broadcast in a week's time, we do invite you to come join us at the same time next week, because in week number 6, we make our way from the state of Wisconsin to the state of New York for the one and only Watkins Glen International. Come join us live from circuit side on Friday, the 24th of January 2025, as we continue the story of the GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT on iRacing. But until then, I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a great weekend ahead, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.